What can I say? A channel that was literally created yesterday about Berserk that hasn't already been said before. Even Jared at the zoo has probably said something about Berserk by this point. See, my journey with Berserk only started in January 2025, despite watching and reading manga for over 10 years now. I read the first chapters of Berserk many moons ago, and admittedly, I didn't really think much of it. Spoiler alert, Guts is raw demon on the first page, and yeah, that's great. It's not for me, but you know, to each to their own. It wasn't until someone in my stream chat said that I should actually watch Berserk. Now, they weren't referring to the 2016 version or the movies, they were referring to the 90s version called Kenpuu Denki Berserk, or otherwise just known as the 90s Berserk by OLM. Now, I'm gonna be real with you, when it comes to my anime list, 5% doesn't even do it justice for how much action and violence I've watched. It is very low. I'm guilty of consuming way too much mediocre slop, not to the levels of multiple seasons of Rent a Girlfriend, but just so many series and movies that I've come out of just thinking, yeah, that was okay. It's been a very long time in anime, especially, that I've watched something and come out feeling moved or a different person due to the media that I've just consumed. Now, I don't mean that in the respect that I now want to get my hair cut, go to the gym and get my arms severed off like Guts. It's more so that my outlook on anime and manga has been changed, or more so, to actually put it better, it's been challenged. What I thought previously was a 10 out of 10, I've actually gone back and reevaluated due to watching the 90s Berserks. I'm one of these savvy redditors that thinks about my scores a lot when I'm sleeping in bed at night, as if I'm writing the New Testament on anime reviews itself. I do it on everything. I do it on movies, games, it really doesn't matter. And it really does play on my soy-induced mind that, you know, when it comes to things like No Game No Life, I gave that a 5 when most people would argue that's an 8. Or when it comes to video games, Sonic Adventure 1, I think that's the peak of the series, when most people would look at scenes like this,
watch out, you're gonna crash,
and call me a goddamn liar. But when I gave the 90s Berserk a 10 out of 10, that is the most confident I've ever been in scoring a piece of media before. I know it's not the perfect adaptation of the manga, and since reading and getting up to date with it itself, I can completely understand why most people would say that it's not the perfect adaptation. But for me, the anime, the 90s Berserk, and the manga of Berserk from 1989, they are both 10s within their own respective right. The 90s Berserk, for those that don't know, covers 2 arcs of the manga, and especially the Golden Age arc is, if not the most important and most iconic arc of the manga itself. The manga punters always do a phenomenal job at depicting Guts' struggle, later joining the band of the Hawk and then witnessing the tragedies which lie ahead. But for me, in the 90s anime, you can really feel the rage, the dread, the hope, and then the hopelessness in Guts, who is basically staring down the opposite end of a double-barreled shotgun. Pair this with the music of especially Guts' theme, which is so iconic, you've probably heard it regardless if you've watched the anime or not. And at the beginning, you're thinking, this doesn't really fit the character of Guts, you know, it's such a harmonic track. But then by the end of the anime's runtime, you begin to understand that there'll be no other way of depicting his struggle like it is in Guts' theme. What I'm trying to say is, I feel that the anime does such a phenomenal job of bringing out all the emotion and tragedy that the reader was intended to feel when they are reading through Berserk, and it puts it in a picture format which frankly is haunting by the end of the anime's runtime, with some of the things that you have to bear witness to. I won't go into too much spoiler territory, but for me especially, the Eclipse is just such a jarring sequence of events that even when you're reading it in the manga, it's haunting enough as it is, but because you now have it in that visual format and you're getting the added elements of the voice acting, the soundtrack, it is almost jarring enough that you want to kind of look away from the screen. And there's nothing in my current list, in my anime list, that could have prepared me for that sequence of events. So you're probably thinking, what is it that changed that made me reevaluate how I score a 10 out of 10? Well, obviously opinions are subjective, but I think what attributed the most to why I believe this anime adaptation is a masterpiece is how beautifully it captures the human side of the manga. Berserk is a deeply complex universe with a plethora of bloodshed, tragedies, and traumatic experiences, but it gives us these moments like the Bonfire of Dreams, for example, where we can kind of sit down as viewers with the characters and get to see the more human side of them, especially in the character of Guts. Guts is often portrayed as this brute-like monster who only wants to battle and cause bloodshed, but during the Bonfire of Dreams, we see this human side of him which grounds the character in such an eloquent way. And for a prolonged moment in this scene, we're only hearing the voices of Guts and Casca. There's no music, there's no screams or agony which we're used to when watching Berserk. We're almost there with Guts and Casca as they share this intimate conversation. It's a beautiful scene whether you read the manga or watch the anime, but the way it's portrayed in this sequence was truly beautiful, and it made me feel at peace even just for a few minutes with these two characters. For me, an adaptation is at its most beautiful when it makes you feel something, not disgust or drowsiness, but when you can almost feel the raw emotions of the characters that have been brought to life on the screen. There is no way I should be able to relate to Guts in any sense or fashion, but moments like the Bonfire of Dreams and the scene on the stairway, it opens up Guts not only to other characters but also us as the viewers. It's moments like that because of the score, the voice acting, it adds those extra elements to a scene that weren't previously there. Was I there at the stairway when Griffiths said that he didn't see Guts as a friend or an equal? No. Did I want to headbutt that devilishly handsome man ripped straight from a Yaoi magazine? Almost definitely. I would say, funnily enough, that the only difficult part about watching the 90s Berserk is where you can go next. Most people, and most sane people should I say, would recommend that you just go read the manga, which is what I would recommend as well. But for those that prefer a visual experience, there isn't really much that wouldn't want you populating your monitor with lead. Your other routes consist of 3 movies that cover what we've already seen in the 90s anime, and they were good, but they were nowhere near brilliant. They also recap these movies in a series that added the Bonfire of Dreams, but how you can cover the entire Golden Age arc in 12 to 13 episodes is really beyond me. And then you have Berserk 2016. Berserk 2016 is the closest I've ever been to strapping myself to a trampoline and letting the wind take its course. Not only do I feel that all of the passion was non-existent in this project, but all of the complexity and emotions that are so brilliantly illustrated in the manga and previous adaptations, they are basically non-existent during this anime adaptation. The CGI that they decide to use on the 2D backgrounds is just absolutely horrendous. There's been very few cases where I've praised the CGI in anime as like a standalone thing, but this is definitely not one of those cases. I don't want to spend any longer talking about Berserk 2016 because that arsehole has been split open further than the Grand Canyon, and it's just not worth your time. We're talking about a masterpiece from the 90s here, not some 2016 schmuck. To end on a more positive note, the Berserk 90s anime should be on your list to watch if you haven't watched it already. It's a beautiful project that I know omits 2 very important characters from the show, but I believe that the extra added elements of the voice acting, the music, it all beautifully orchestrates that into one project, and I think that it has very great value to anyone that's either read the manga previously or watching the show for the first time getting into the universe. You know, that's how I started with Berserk. I've got my merch on the way, and I'll probably have an expired gym membership by the end of the year as well. But thank you very much for watching this video. Hopefully I'll see you in the next one.